Morning. Hi, I'm Mike Tschudy. I'm from Pearson, and I know you're all here to learn about Pearson and that brand. But I get to be the juxtaposition to Hulu. So a little bit about my background. I've been in the software industry for about 30 years, Silicon Valley, Apple, eBay, WebMD, 4 startups. I deal with WebMD and have also done robotics and AI. And now in at Pearson, where we are trying to shift it from a B2B to C to a direct-to-consumer model. So Andy Bird, formerly a senior executive at Disney, is now our CEO. He actually drove the direct-to-consumer strategy in international for Disney, of which Hulu is a part of it. So the synergy is actually pretty interesting. So if anyone is trying to build that direct-to-consumer brand relationship and doesn't have it already, I'm that person. And we're starting up inside of a big company that's been around for 150 years, who has delivered higher education and assessments around the world. So if you're trying to come to the United States to study, you have to take an English test. Pearson delivers that. If you've taken the SATs, Pearson delivers that. If you have a textbook that costs way too much money, Pearson delivered that. And that's a part of the big change that we've done with Pearson Plus. I know, very creative, but Pearson Plus is our way of having a direct relationship with students who are under tremendous financial pressure these days and psychological pressure. And how do we make that journey really wonderful and student-centric and help them navigate the next stage of their life? Pearson is moving into a broader engagement with people learning throughout their whole life. So with that, I want to learn from Michael, and I'm super excited to be here. Anything you want to say?
No, super. So we had a couple of really great intro calls together, and that's the first of many conversations, I think. But yeah, I mean, super interesting time for Hulu right now as well. In the direct-to-consumer world, more competition than ever. So
well, and that's kind of the entry point is everyone has a subscription service now. We're all finding that when we cut the cable and switched over, it's like, yes, $45 a month instead of $250 a month. And now it's all stacking up. It's a crowded space. How do you differentiate? What is the role of brand versus content? And how does that weave together?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at streaming, especially over the last 12 to 18 months, it's gotten crazy competitive. And I know that's a very simplistic thing to say, but it's not just the amount of services that are out there. It's the fact you can only watch so much TV in a day, even during the height of the pandemic. So for us, we're in a different stage of evolution than a Paramount Plus or HBO Max or other new products out there. And it just, growth is hard. Growth is hard these days. And I think that obviously I'm the most biased person probably at Hulu to say that brand should be the differentiator, but I think that we have a very unique brand in the space. Right? We were born 15 years ago out of just being a rebel in a way, and being disruptive in the industry. And I think that that's what we need to use to our advantage during this incredibly competitive time, because we have this the sizzle that we constantly make internally, which is competitive creative. And if you look at what every other brand in the space is doing right now, it's about storytelling and originals and all of this. And it's good creative, but I don't know what different things that is telling you. And so it's really, I think, incumbent upon us to use our brand to speak to consumers in a different way, to break through some of that clutter, because there is confusion. There's so much right now, and you're not going to be able to grow, I don't think, if you can't be a little bit.
Do you find that you have to think about getting very segmented with your content to reach specific audiences, or are you playing a broad play? And how does that evolve the brand, especially in this attention economy where there's all sorts of options?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that, look, we've been a very broad brand, right? And I think our awareness is, most people know what Hulu is, but I think we are at that point where we have to unpack it a little more for people. We've come a long way from the days where it was just one product on the brand, right, with no ads. And so, or with ads and no ads. And you can now get Hulu in so many other different ways. And while that's great for the customer, I think from a brand perspective, it's a challenge because people don't necessarily know how much there is to our product. People don't really know we have a live streaming offer. No one really believes, because Hulu's DNA was last night's TV, that exists. We're not part of the Disney bundle, but I think that a lot of people hear Disney bundle and they don't realize that Hulu's part of Disney. So I think that we have to get, whether it's segmented or just specificity of how we go to market with explaining what we offer. I think that's where you're going to start to see that growth.
One of the things, and I played in the middle of sort of the brand promise and really driving a brand from a product. What is the linkage for Hulu in the product experience relative to the brand promise? Which drives which?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think we've gotten so much better at making sure that whatever you see out in the world comes through in the product. And it's so important that teams talk to each other. And we were just talking about confusion and monetization before, and it's confusing if the product experience looks nothing like however you're marketing it, right? Both visually, you get that as given what you do, but also just even how the product talks to you, right? It shouldn't be coming from the same brand. So I think we've made real strides to make sure that, again, whatever you see out in the world comes through as soon as you log in. And I think one of the unique things we've asked about segmentation, one of the unique things about what we offer is that it does start to get your tastes and get what you're interested in our product. And so we think that that's something that's really meaningful.
We had a great roundtable discussion on Friday with a number of brands. It was really fascinating. And one of the topics that came up is the brand values. And we all like to believe that everyone gets it. But the reality is everyone internalizes the brand value relative to their job. What is the challenge inside of Hulu as you begin to shift the brand into other areas? How are you bringing your teams along and helping along with you?
Yeah, I'd love to know the same thing about Pearson too, because I think at least with yeah, no, but I think we're going through, maybe to a lesser degree, something, right? You think Pearson, you don't know actually all the amazing things that Pearson means, right? And I think it's the same thing with Hulu, where again, most people think one thing, and we need to figure out a lot of different ways to just how do we explain the breadth of what we offer. I think internally, look, we've changed, right? We've gone from our ownership has changed. We're not part of the Walt Disney Company, and that brings with it a lot of good things, but also for the team, right? Especially over the last couple of years being at home, there's just a lot of change. But I think there's so much still exciting DNA and really differentiating things about our brand. I think it's up to us as storytellers to be able to come up with some of that narrative, right? Like that's what you do as a marketer, you need to make a narrative. And so that's some of what we're working on right now. Like, even though we've changed, what is the future of the story, right? And how can we build? And I'm personally excited to help with that today.
So the future is actually a good segue, because the future's kind of now. We're seeing Gen Z and guilty. I have two 23-year-olds and so I'm living that Gen Z reality.
I am not.
And that's okay. You may be better for it. But it's how do you engage with a group, a segment of people, very diverse, very different tastes, but attention is really their currency. How do you engage in the world of TikTok? How do you engage in the world of YouTube TV, where they've actually gone to a broadcast model, but also have a platform for content creators who are becoming emerging?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think we're still figuring out. There are a lot of things that we're trying just on how we're buying media and targeting it, and really seeing how creative's performing. We've done a lot with TikTok, and we've learned a lot, same with Snap. But I think the most important thing is that it's so easy to think that you have all the answers, and that sort of your team can figure out the best way to market to these audiences. The truth of the matter is that you can't really get it unless you're part of that audience. And so we've been thinking really hard about how do we bring in the right people, the right voices, the right organizations to just help us better understand that audience. Because I think it's also not for us just a marketing firm. I think we need to work kind of across content and product and all the teams to make sure, hey, like, what is going to appeal to some of this? Because I really do believe that we have to start thinking as well about who is going to stream tomorrow and the next day, and how do you bring them on? And also, we believe that we do have a great brand for the audience because we can really speak to them in ways that maybe some of the other more traditional brands don't. But how do you reach them early and what are the right ways to do that? And those are all exciting challenges right now. We really need to figure out what the content and a marketing perspective. And I think too, just also willingness to pay, right? Like, even though we're not, we made a student offer, right, for $3, but maybe that isn't even appealing to a student, right? So I think just willingness to pay, what is the right way to package it up?
And that's something we found is that certain channels, even in the good old days where Google PLAs and really reaching people through advertising is shifting because of a shifting land around trust, safety, security, around digital services, a lot of counterfeit, dark web services. So we were finding that traditional marketing in the kind of web 1.0 era is not really clicking. We're finding that TikTok is really the direct way to engage them, less YouTube than others. And so we're finding that there's a very different conversation emerging, and we're also finding influencers. So we connected with super smart athletes at different universities and really have empowered them to really speak on our behalf, but they have to really care. Are you finding that you are connecting with influencers who are true believers in Hulu, and how do you weed out the people who are just influencers for influencers' sake?
It's another really good question. I think that you're right. If you're not authentic about it, or you're just kind of, getting a paycheck to support a brand, it's not going to work out. I think we've done pretty well. Something that we've done over the last 3 years to sell live is work really closely with athletes and athletes that we think really connect with Gen Z in a meaningful way. And what we do is that to pick the right athletes, we'll spend time with them and we'll understand what motivates you. We've done a pretty good job of figuring out athletes who use Hulu and actually really like Hulu, and that matters. And like, I remember we worked with Joel Embiid 3 years ago, 76er player, and he loved Rick and Morty. He loved watching Rick and Morty on Hulu. And so just to be able to like have that nugget when you're going in and talking with them, it makes it so much more real, right? And it's like, he still wants the Hulu subscription for free as well. It's like we're really looking for a free subscription. But I think spending that time but look, I think on the flip side, when it comes going back to Gen Z, it's hard, right? Like it's harder to find the right people who are going to connect with that audience in a meaningful way.
And some of these things are happening wicked fast. You don't have enough time. You don't have a year to sort of build those relationships. How are you finding Hulu to be responsive to trend and emerging topics?
Yeah, that is probably the thing that I care most about right now in my current role, because it's hard. It's hard. Like the amount of times that he'll be even 3 hours late on, someone said something about no exit, right? Or something, right? Like those are things that you just need to connect with, especially with what you do, to really be ingrained in that conversation. And I'd love to invest a lot more in just resources to be able to do that. I think Netflix has built up such an amazing editorial team that, right, like they are in some ways a new age publication, right? In the way that they think about connecting with their viewers, both current and company perspective, we'll see everyone Netflix. But that's, I think, the model where we need to go to as a streaming service, where you are built in a way as an editorial team. And so I think we do a good job. I think you can do much better, and that's what I think is a ton of opportunity. I think that's how you connect with younger audiences as well.
It feels like that sort of real-time hyper trend kind of work is forcing new content types, new content formats. Are you beginning to explore the meaning of that? So there's certainly third-party channels that you're using, but Hulu's an amazing platform, and media is media. It can be consumed in many different ways. Are you planning? I don't want to have you tip your hat?
No, I mean, I think that we're looking at everything. One thing that we've been doing over the last couple of years is on our SVOD service. So for kind of our base no ads and ads product is we've got a live stream of ABC News now, so you can watch news 24/7. But also there's some live events that we've been piloting, just putting on SVOD. So do you understand one that Hulu now has a live offering, but how can we increase the value of that offering? So look, I'm sure there'll be a lot more of it.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
And it's tricky because there's a lot of really amazing platforms out there that do it well. And so this is, to me, the partnership topic, which is how has the Hulu journey been around partnerships, and where do you see it going? Because quite honestly, Pearson is going to be really dependent on that, both from a brand halo standpoint, we need all the help we can get, but also in the value to the student, and really creating that stacked value that makes this a subscription worth having beyond just your textbooks.
Yeah, look, we've been successful in that area in the past. I think scale continues to be a really important thing for us, right? There's still a lot of market share in the US to capture, and I think if there are partners out there, and then also probably look at the bundle as a whole, right? I mean, definitely the Disney bundle and Disney Plus as well. It's a really, it's a great offer. So look, I think we're definitely open to it if it brings scale, but as a brand marketer as well, one of the things that I think has not been great in partnerships is that we're already such a confusing proposition that when you throw another brand in there, it's got to be the right brand, it's got to be innovative, and that has kind of, I wouldn't say tripped us up, but just want to be as clear as possible. That's not sometimes the business thing, but yeah, like I think that it's helped in the past. It's a way to grow, and we're definitely looking at things.
Hey, just to click down a little bit in that, can you speak about the Spotify partnership, because that was, I think, well known?
Yeah, I mean, look, we did a partnership with Spotify about 3 years ago. We're in a student deal with them, and look, it was a great way for us with Spotify to reach college students, right? And Spotify's a brand that's super resonant with them. Hulu maybe not so much, and it worked out really well. Right. So I think that we're constantly still looking at ways to reach the student audience. I think that the willingness to pay again among students is not high, but again, it's a branding exercise in a way too, right? I know that we've seen a lot of really interesting stats on just how the Hulu brand does resonate amongst college students. I think some of the content mix that we've had out there recently does really is widely consumed by college kids, but again, it's like, how do you go in the right way and not just not put a Hulu logo up and kind of going through traditional tactics. So it's a branding exercise, more than anything else.
Well, and probably want to do some Q&A if that's interesting to folks. But I think one of the challenges is perhaps Gen Z has a very different relationship with brands that we all know and love. And when it comes to partnering with brands, how do you take a portfolio approach, or do you, around those affinities or those connections? And is it an anti-brand culture that's emerging? Or is it that there is brands that we don't even think about being relevant to Gen Z that are really captivating them?
I think it's both. I think one, like you have to show up in a super, again, authentic's the most trite word. I'm sure it's been used 100 times here. But again, I think you have to show up in an interesting way, right? And so we're thinking about, we've never done much around experiential or anything like that. Like, sure, Hulu shows up for premieres and all that, but Hulu as a brand, we never really thought about how it fits in the physical world. I think there could be some really interesting things around that. But you're right, there's also some very unexpected brands that have done really well. Like I even look, I think McDonald's is a brand that over the past year has had a complete renaissance, right? But I think it's also because they've become a lot more transparent. They've made a lot of inroads to younger audiences, and so I think there are some of these unexpected brands that have abroad. And then kind of on the flip side of things, I don't know if you would look at them as a competitor or complement, even a brand like Duolingo. I think it's done just a sensational job of reaching a younger audience. That owl's everywhere, right? So like maybe we need a Hulu owl or some other sort of bird.
Well, they are a competitor, but I have a lot of respect for them. I mean, I use them with my kids when they were struggling with Spanish, and then I wanted to join in. And then there's, what is the outcome? And sometimes just feeling like you have autonomy and can solve a problem yourself with an app is a win. Doesn't necessarily lend itself to the outcomes that you're trying to drive.
But I think as a brand, it's
amazing.
An interesting job of positioning themselves.
Yeah, that's awesome. So go to Q&A? Yeah, that's awesome. This has been cool. Anybody have questions? Oh, we got a few. All right. Your first question is going to be about whether you like that movie No Way.
Hey, good morning. Kristen here. Question for you too. With like all the new streaming services that are popping up, I'm just kind of curious, like, if you want to hypothesize what's like going to happen. Do you think there's going to be consolidation? And then how do you see yourselves kind of continuing to differentiate, knowing that you're a part of the multitude company now too? Is there a play into that as well? So can you tell us the future?
These are the questions I ask myself every morning. I think one, like when we started on competition, right? But there's just people will not have the time to let alone, even if we all had unlimited incomes, there's just no time in the day to launch 6 services, right? So undoubtedly, there will be more consolidation on some level, right? Like there's just no need for all of these content. And on the flip side, I think it's been great for the industry. There's more content than ever, right? Like creatively, it is probably the best time or one of the best times to be creative. I just don't think it's going to be possible to sustain that from a service perspective. And so, I think for us, that's why, again, right, as the brand person, this is I'm biased, but I do think how does Hulu differentiate? It is we are blessed that we were all, when I came in, there was a brand that existed that always turned its industry on its head. And I look at it as when you go to the App Store, think about, hey, which one of these 6 2-syllable brands should I sign up for a streaming service? If you see the green and you connote it to, oh, they probably have something a little edgier or something that's a little different, right? Like that's the equity that I think we need to invest in, because that's gonna change preference and that's gonna change how we do things. I don't really think that just continuously telling people we have this, we have that is gonna matter anymore, because I don't think people know what.
Yeah, it's hard to just have a functional value proposition, and when we launched Pearson Plus, I've come in from the direct-to-consumer world. We have a whole team, and we have to fuse it with who's in there. But a big principle is we have to be compared to the best experiences out there. If we don't benchmark against the very best, the likelihood of getting a very skeptical student population to opt into a very noisy subscription world is going to be hard. So we look at differentiating on design, attention to detail, the authentic voice. Pearson is very academic, very institutional, very B2B. And Michelle, who was up on stage before, talked about simplify. And I think to get to what's going to happen with subscriptions, consolidation is inevitable. It always is. Complexity, entry in the market, drives awareness, people norm to it. Hulu is a strange name until it doesn't feel strange anymore, and you just go to it. And then people will choose simplicity over complexity and perfection all day long. And so that I've seen disruption happen. So I think there has to be consolidation. There'll be new cable companies. Put it all together.
All right, one more. Thank you. Mike, we spoke about this the other night. It's interesting because there's the transaction and then there's the engagement. So I might have a subscription, but I'm just simply not paying attention to it, which on one hand is good because we get money out of it. But then on the second hand, there's not really growth, and at any point I can cut the cord. For both of you, kind of both sit in that sort of space where I might buy a course, but I'm never actually take it or complete it. Or I might have Hulu, but I'm spending all my time on Netflix or HBO Max and never putting this thing. So what are your thoughts on that and how you engage people?
I can lead with that. We live and die by our data. And so we've instrumented our product and the whole customer journey, and I own that whole thing end to end. Movies, probably not surprised. There's a large percentage of people who never open their textbook. In the good old days, it was under the bed until that first midterm, and then we see engagement. I think a lot of what we've built into the product is really rich, engaging ways of making people successful, but it's behavior modification. At some point, you have to fit into their life, and you have to have a call to action that resonates with them. We're trying to move away from products you have to use, you don't have a choice, to opt in. And how do you get people to opt in is really going to get down to clear value propositions and a benefit that is well understood. You can't, again, simplicity. You have to have a very simple, clear message. But if we don't engage you, the likelihood of you speaking about us, thinking about us, referring it, and resubscribing as well. And we've learned that people who engage most richly with our product are the ones that actually resubscribe without any friction. So it is the art and science of just living by data, looking by engagement, routine testing, and really interacting with your population to figure out what's the value to them. And this is why you can't just go down one path because that's the asset you have and that's the textbook. We have to think about new media, new content, and that's why Pearson's transitioning from being an education company to being a media learning as a service.
Yeah, I'll just add, like you nailed it. Like the biggest sort of challenge right now is it's a lot easier to bring in subscribers to something, whether it's a new show, a sporting event, or whatnot. But like once they're in, you're right. If you're just coming in for one thing, I mean, even on the live side, I'd say that we realized pretty early on, which is, hey, we could get people to sign up for the Super Bowl or for events and all that. But I can get them to sign up, right? And so we're a lot more focused on that. I even say now because that's the hardest part of streaming, and everyone's going from service to service. So it's I think we got to get better at it, but that has to be the focus moving forward because eventually there's only so many subscribers that you can possibly get.
All right, let's give it up for Brian. I'm sorry. Mike, Brian, we tried to make it as easy as we could. Appreciate that.